Here we go. Good afternoon and welcome. It's good to see everybody. Great to see. We've got a full house today. Very good with all our staff here and with all our committee members. Thank you all so much for being here. I appreciate your time. Hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving full of turkey and time with family and friends. And now we're off. It's December the 2nd, right? 28 more days, 29 more days in the year. So, all right, so let's get started. We do have a quorum present, so let's take the roll.
Senator Hashmi?
Here.
Delegate Munden King?
Here.
Runyon?
Here.
Delegate Glass?
Present.
Delegate Tata? Barbara Inman? Here. Janita Kearney? Cameron Patterson? Joan Johns Cobbs? Gotcha. Paris Turner? Senator Williams Graves?
Here.
You have a quorum, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. In our agenda, it says that we need to introduce our members, but we've done that a couple of times and we just call the roll. So unless anyone has anything they want to share with us, I think we're good on introductions with everybody. All right, I am Senator Williams Graves, Chair of the committee. Again, welcome to everyone. We have guests here as well as our committee members, and we do have a full agenda here today. And so let's get started with the 2025-2026 application cycle. You have in your packets, and you should have received already, an amendment of the policies of the committee. In red are the proposed changes. There are line throughs for outdated dates, just so there's an update, and then one other change that is lined through based on conversation from our previous meeting. And so has everyone had an opportunity to read through this information, and does anyone have any questions? So for the benefit of the public, we have some recommendations and clarifying language with regard to amounts as they are dispersed, up to $5,000 in dispersed funds per semester, up to $5,000 may be dispersed in each the fall and spring semesters. If there's any additional funds left over, that money can be applied to a summer term. The recommendation to remove tuition only in terms of an award being combined with other assistance. So that recommendation was made at the last session. And then as it pertained to application dates, those are simply changes in year. And then applying for the renewal of the scholarship, there's information here on removing the requirement that an applicant submit documentation to establish domicile, and then recommending FAFSA or BASA for applicants who are descendants. Currently, the policies require FAFSA or BASA for students applying for a program, and then a recommendation for creating a simplified application for renewals. So if folks are already receiving a scholarship, we just want to simplify that process for renewals. In Section 5, in terms of the selection process, considering changes to prioritization criteria, including creation of academic performance and a cap on the number of students, consider modeling certain criteria as it pertained to the Pell Grant. This was one that we had some conversation on with regard to academic progress. And so are there any questions, comments, anything? Yes, Delegate Glass.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was wondering where we landed on the question of being in state school. Was that a part of this? Last time we were having some discussions around whether or not a scholar that went to school in Virginia was affected by, have family affected, but decided to go out of state. I know that was sort of, translate that ball over here, so I wonder where we're at on that.
We are still in discussion about it. It's really not a decision that we're going to be able to make in this meeting because there's so many pieces to that puzzle with regard to where the money comes from, how the money was acquired, and then the allocation or the distribution of the money through SHIV. That would require a legislative change. And so that is going to be a change that if we decide as a body to make, would be made in the 2026 calendar year, because we've got some other questions that have also come up in terms of how we can best expand the use of the program in terms of making it eligible for more students. So it's a larger conversation than just that one piece. Answer your question?
Yeah, I can make sure.
Okay, absolutely, absolutely. Any other questions, issues, concerns, suggestions? Yes, did I see a hand or yes?
Madam Chair, when we talk about the criteria, are there any GPA requirements that a student would have to maintain to keep the scholarship? Or are we just looking at academic progress as long as they're moving forward as deemed by the institution?
I think the conversation that we were having was if they're eligible for Pell Grant. I think that was where we landed, if they were eligible for Pell Grant, because you still have to have a certain GPA requirement to be eligible for Pell Grant, if I'm not mistaken. Or at least I know from experience, you can't take and drop classes more than like twice and still be eligible. So that was without adding any additional burden. I think that was, and if you all have any additional thing to add, yes, Senator Hashmi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And at our last meeting, I had made the recommendation that we put in the guidelines for satisfactory academic progress. And that's part of the consideration for selection process and acceptance or renewal. So if we do choose to go in that direction, I think the benefit is that satisfactory academic progress is a standard term that's used in higher education. It is part of the Pell Grant criteria as well, and it ensures that students are maintaining a grade higher or GPA higher than a D, which I think is critical because, as you pointed out, if you take the same course more than 2 times, there's the danger of losing your financial support under federal guidelines. If your GPA continues to be below a D, there's again a danger of losing your federal support. But more importantly, I think, is having that satisfactory academic progress criteria is that it triggers the college or university to provide additional supports and resources to address the concerns that a student may be having, either academically or non-academically, and it ensures that the student continues to be satisfactory academic progress.
Any other questions? And I think the other piece too is that we want to make sure that the students are matriculating in a manner that gets them to a degree. And we don't want to be paying for partying. We want to be paying for studying, to put it bluntly. We want to be paying for studying. So anything else? Any other comments? Questions? All right, so before we put this to a vote, I know that we have a couple of folks in the audience who wanted to address the committee. So if you would come forward, give us your name and make your comments.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and all attendees. My name is Marcia Walker. I attended the last meeting regarding my daughter being one of the recipients who was denied the application the scholarship because she was attending a college out of state. I brought my dad so that you could put a face to the name. He was the one that was directly affected by the closing of the school at Prince Edward County Schools. And I just wanted him to be able to tell how it affected him so that it would give you all a clear understanding or a better idea of just hearing it from me as the story was being told from me so you could hear it directly from him. And his name is John Smith. That's his real name, not his alias.
Thank you for coming, Mr.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I guess I want to say it's been 65 years since since the school closed, and I've been affected by it every day. And when we went back to school, when they opened the schools back up, when they closed it, I was 7 years old. When they opened it back up, I was 12 years old in the second grade. And I played sports. And then at the end of, when I got to the 10th grade, they closed it. They stopped me from playing sports, so I was too old, so I couldn't get a scholarship. So everywhere you went, somebody put the foot on your neck to stop you from going forward. So you picture anybody taking 5 years of your life out and tell you there's something you have to do. And my granddaughter, she go to Alabama, but she got a 4.0 GPA. So she going to school to learn. And it's hard. You know, I put all 10 of my kids through school. And about 4 or 5 of them went to college. You know, and that, without the education and without the opportunity, it wasn't no easy job. But they got through that. And I want to see them do better. So y'all saying, what good for y'all, but what is good for the kids? Y'all saying what the kids don't do, but I got a granddaughter will do. And I think I got 7 more grandkids that will be going to college. But every day, the 5 years that we was out of school, my siblings, the younger ones that were just babies when we got put out of school, they were ready to go back to school in the 1st grade. And they was 7 years behind me, but they was in the 1st grade and I'm in the 2nd grade. See, and not only that, me and my brother, we used to see the school bus go by the house, and we were young, and we thought if we go down to the road and wait, they would pick us up, and all the kids did is laughed at us. So we went through a lot to held us back, but we didn't give up. But y'all, like I said, 65 years later, just coming around to do something about it. But it can't help me, but it can help my kids. So things that it took y'all 65 years to even put it on the table to do anything about it. So I would appreciate it if y'all could do something to help my granddaughter, because she going to a school that she loves and she want to go. And she don't go there just to be there. She go there to learn, so. And I guess, I could sit here and talk all day about it, but, it brought you to a point in your life that your mom and dad had to go through, and my whole family had to go through it, But a lot of my schoolmates, they have died and went on and have nothing from it. So y'all have a chance to make it right with the kids that's left and the ones that want to be in school and trying to make it, My daughter, she loves school, So telling her that she got to go to a school that y'all choose, they're just doing the same thing y'all done to me. You know, putting something on her neck and tell her, well, you got to go where I tell you to go. But if she in Alabama, if y'all make it right there, she might come back here and teach or do something here in Virginia. You know, given the opportunity. But she got to have an opportunity here to do it. You know, we can't ask somebody to do something and then don't make it possible for them to do it. So I'm not good with words or anything, but I know how it is. I'm 72 years old, you know, so, and I'm still struggling. You know, I still get up and do what I can do for my kids and for my grandkids. So I think I got 36 grandkids, you know, so I try to make sure they get what they need. But, you know, I only can do so much, you know. So, like I said, if you picture taking 5 years of your life away from you and then try to get over the hill, it's mighty hard when they strap you with 1,000 pounds on your back and tell you to walk with it. You know, they said, make America great. It took y'all 65 years to come up with anything. You know, so how far are we behind already? You know, so I would appreciate it, anything y'all can do to help her. You know, not 2 years from now, 3 years from now, she needs help now. You know, so I would appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Thank you for coming and for sharing with us. Any other comments? Mr. Smith, we appreciate, we thank you for coming, and we acknowledge the 5 years of your life that you lost. And we are working with the mechanism that we have at our disposal to be able to make this as right as we possibly can. Unfortunately, what we can't do is something for one student without considering all of the other students that may be affected and may benefit from the decisions that we make. And so I believe from talking to many members of this body that there is some desire to do something. What that is really gonna take more time in a conversation than what we have right now to do. And, but what we will do is our very best to make sure that we do all that we can in the time with the mechanism that we have at our disposal to help students like your daughter and possibly your daughter, your granddaughter, your daughter, in her college studies. But thank you for coming and thank you for putting a face and giving a firsthand account and an experience to us. It is something that I think all of us will take with us and keep in our hearts and in our heads as we deliberate further on how we proceed with helping young people who are the descendants of those affected by the Brown versus Board of Education school closure decision. But it is unfortunately not one that we are going to be able to make today that would more than likely directly impact your granddaughter. All right. We went through prioritization and acceptance renewal in here, and then we've got advertising. So talk to me.
Madam Chair, last year, the committee authorized $10,000 for spending on advertising across the state. We had 50 applicants last year, so it seems like it reached a number of students that the committee is able to accommodate. advertising about that same amount would work well this year if the committee would like to authorize spending again. The advertisements went out throughout the month of February, mostly online ads targeted towards college-age students. We also did a run of newspaper ads through February.
Okay, and I also recall that we requested this information to be sent to all of the members, as well as the members of the legislative members, as well as the members of the committee. I know I don't recall receiving that, but please make sure that we do, because a lot of us legislatively put out information into our newsletters, into our communities, to make sure that the information gets out there, as well as folks who are on the committee are involved in various organizations within their respective communities that can also help get the information out there so that we can help as many students as possible. Because I think we had a number this year, but we had money and we just did, for all the applicants that were accepted, we just funded them all. So we want to make sure that we're getting to as many folks as we possibly can. Any other questions? Did you have something? Yes, okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So something else that I think that was one of the first conversations we had, and I can't remember who on this committee brought it up, is a concerted effort to get to school counselors, because that made a difference. That was you, yeah, that was you bringing up the fact that there's a disparity of what school districts and systems actually are aware and targeting specific school districts as well. And I heard you say newspaper, and I was like, wanted to make sure that we were in the 21st century too, and making sure like we're targeting on the Instagrams and places like that as well too.
You bring up a good point. With regard to social media, what can we do?
Madam Chair, we have advertised through Virginia Press Association, Press Services, and they do push the ads out on social media, Facebook, I think, various other social media platforms. So they do take care of that for us.
Okay, all right. Yeah, we're probably in the 18th century on social media advertising as a body, but okay. Yeah. All right. So we'll do as much as true. Yeah. We'll do as much as we possibly can with what we have. But I agree that the social media piece and the school counselor piece is very important to make sure that school counselors have this information. Isn't there a school counselors association or school board, something or another, that we could make sure? Yes.
So there is a school counselors association. I'm not sure of the name exactly. There is a superintendent's association. That would probably be a good thing. And then, Facebook certainly, I think Facebook probably reaches parents and, grandparents. Students are probably Instagram and other platforms that I don't even probably know about, but yeah.
There we go. I think also from this perspective, parents being aware is probably a really good thing, including the students, but the parents being aware, because we may have some students who may not know their heritage and they may not know their family experience. And if parents see it and grandparents see it, then they can push the information to their children and grandchildren. So it's a good thing as well. Yes, sir.
Might be good just to reach out to the admissions departments for our institutions in Virginia. I know at Longwood, the team has gotten to a point where they start asking, students, particularly those that are coming from Prince Edward, just to try to make sure that they're aware.
I would venture to say they probably should ask everybody that comes out of Virginia. I mean, seriously, because they didn't just shut down Prince Edward, right? Like, they shut down Virginia. So I think that would be a good point, and a recommendation for all of our admissions counselors in all the schools to make sure to see if they're asking those kinds of questions, because they may be leaving money on the table. Yes, ma'am.
scholarships and to identify maybe students who are eligible.
So you all have all of our recommendations, right? Somebody's taking notes, right?
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
thank you.
Delegate London King.
A couple of recommendations. One is essentially free, but I would love to recommend that a letter from you, Madam Chair, to go out to local school boards and superintendents in those highly impacted areas with copy to the members, the elected folks there, to help raise some awareness. I know many of us visit schools on a regular basis. And then the second recommendation would be most of the students I know are using the HBCU Common app or the One Common app, but to consider advertising on those apps as well. And community foundations. Thank you.
All right, yes, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would suggest that we not just in our population. I think it would make sense to make sure that we've brought this issue in front of everybody in the Commonwealth that has interest in it. Absolutely. Thank you.
So we have a budget. I'm assuming it includes mail. And so we could get a list of, or we probably have a list somewhere of all of the school boards, superintendents, and members. And we could put a form letter together and run that through the clerk's office or through somebody's office. Okay, with my name on it. Okay, that works. All right, good deal. Yep, perfect. All right. So I need a motion to accept recommendations.
So moved.
Second.
The motion has been moved and properly seconded that we accept the recommendations that are before us. Is this a voice vote or a recorded voice vote? All right, let's do it. Okay, all those in, okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. All right, so our next meeting is going to be at some point in March. We'll send that out. Do we have a date yet? We don't have a date yet? Okay, it'll be some point in March so that we can get on your calendars early. The one thing that I would ask is that I know how easy it is to compartmentalize things where when we come here, we do what we have come to do and then we close the book and then we leave. And the one thing that I would ask is that when we send out emails asking for your feedback, that you actually give us feedback. If you have none, if you could just respond so that we know that your emails, that our email is not going to junk, and that we're communicating. But the issue of criteria, eligibility, in-state, out-of-state, schools eligible to do business in the Commonwealth, all of those things are conversations that we're going to have next year so that when we get to this point, we have an actual, we have recommendations that we have agreed on and that we can vote on that will be impactful and that will further give us the ability to help more students. Nothing works quickly in government, Mr. Smith, but we are doing our very best. So thank you, and thank you for coming. Does anyone else have anything else?
Madam Chair?
Yes,
if I
ma'am.
could just a second for a comment.
Sure.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To Mr. Smith and your family, I just want to say thank you so much for coming to share your story. And even though it was many, many years before I became a Virginian, I want to apologize again. I don't think we can apologize enough for the pain and the hurt that was caused to your family. I have the pleasure of being good friends with members of the Hendricks family from Prince Edward County. And I've had the fortune of hearing their stories, and it matters so much to us in the decisions that we make to hear your stories, to hear your perspective, to hear how you were impacted. And you have personally motivated me to look into the section that created the criteria for this committee. So section 30-231 of the code establishes the requirements for how we're able to disperse these funds. But in my conversations and in your comments today, it is clear that to repair so much of the damage that was done, we really have to question and take another look at the criteria that has been set before us. And I'm personally committed to doing that. And I just want to thank you for continuing to press on and share your stories, because it matters now more than ever that we know where we come from, what you've been able to overcome, so that we know that we too can follow in those footsteps and overcome the obstacles that may be in front of us. And so I'm just so grateful to you, and I want to say thank you. And again, my deepest apologies for what our Commonwealth and what we did to your family. But thank you so much.
Yes. Yes, please.
Okay, I would just like to say we owe a debt of gratitude to Ken Woodley, who first decided to start the scholarship for the children that were left out of school. Ken Woodley was the ex-editor of the Farmer Herald, and if it were not for him, we would not be here today doing this. And I just think we should give him a shout out of thank you.
Absolutely,
Gratitude.
thank you. And if I'm not mistaken, he also led the charge in getting the additional federal funds as well for the program, so, or for the scholarship. So absolutely, thank you for adding that. I appreciate it. Anything else? Anyone else? All right. I echo the sentiments of my colleague in the House, Delegate Munden King. Thank you so much for sharing your story. And we will do our very, very best to work to continue to make it right. With all that being said, if all hearts and minds are clear, I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, whatever it is that you celebrate. I wish you to have a happy that and enjoy the remainder of the year and have a prosperous and happy new year. Thank you. We're adjourned.
Celebrate all three.
The Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia.